Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update on the current situation. Day 131 of the current situation, and there's lots of news, lots of information to get through today. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Big thanks to people that supported the channel through a small donation. You can see your name here. Thanks to people that bought merchandise, and a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your support. Now, let's get into some of the news. Lots of news circulating at the moment as to whether or not Spain is in lockdown. Their answer is no. It is true that there are certain restrictions around the country. There are voluntary confinements. There are some places that are in a type of lockdown. Some places have gone back to a phase 2 stage. Remember that Spain went through a phase system before coming out of the complete lockdown, and some places have gone back to the phase 2 stage. So still a little bit complicated there, but the whole country is not in lockdown at the moment. We can see here from one headline, is Spain in lockdown? The latest travel advice after virus cases rise. And if it could go back on the UK quarantine countries list. The Catalonia and Aragon regions in the east have been particularly badly affected, with people in Barcelona advised to stay indoors. And another headline here saying that Spain becomes the European COVID-19 hotspot again. Over the last 2 weeks, Spain reported more cases than any other EU country or the UK. Now, unfortunately, that last piece of news is correct. Even the local press here is reporting that. We can see here that the outbreak of cases in Spain, the worst in the entire European Union. The strong rebound in cases in Spain is unmatched in the European Union, while in Italy, Germany, and the recently departed United Kingdom continue to decline, and in France they increased slightly. In Spain they have doubled in the last 2 weeks, according to data from the WHO. So data numbers not looking good there compared to the rest of the European Union and the UK. And it's leading a lot of people to ask the question, what's going wrong in Spain? What are the problems, and why is there an increase in case numbers when, as we saw, the rest of the European Union seems to be getting better? Now, I had a few comments on recent videos asking me whether Benidorm was in lockdown. Apparently there was a video released a few days ago with that headline. We can see here that a July 19 video caption incorrectly states Spain's Benidorm has gone back into lockdown. The video, published on July the 19th on YouTube channel Celebrity Radio by Alex Belfield, features the presenter discussing COVID-19 and how it could affect British tourists in Benidorm. The description of the video reads, "Breaking, Benidorm back in lockdown, Spain and Alicante summer holiday disaster." When the video is shared on Facebook, this misleading caption features prominently. Now, Benidorm is not in lockdown. This was fake news. The video has subsequently been removed from both YouTube and Facebook, but it just goes to show how quickly this type of news can spread. And this is an example how people use those clickbait titles in order to get people in and, of course, spread rumors. Now, the Spain Tourism Minister, Ms. Morato, has come out in recent days talking about various things related to the tourism industry. She admits that cancellations are taking place in tourist destinations due to insecurity and due to outbreaks. She says that she hopes the figures will improve as we control the outbreaks. Right now, the outbreaks continue to generate insecurity and cancellations and are taking place in some destinations, she acknowledged during an informative breakfast organised by Europa Press. Another thing she mentioned in that breakfast was the possible closure of the border with France. She said that she hopes that that doesn't take place, and that the Spanish government is going to do everything in their power to keep those European borders open. But of course, with the increase in numbers and all of the news that is going around, I suppose that people are definitely worried about that possible insecurity of traveling to a place like Spain in coming weeks and months. Now, of course, if you are planning to come to Spain, or if you are living in Spain, this piece of information might come in handy. What if they can find the area you have hired for your vacation? This summer, planning a few days off is an adventure because the outlook is very uncertain due to the outbreaks. Doubts arise for those who go on a trip. What if they can find the area where they have hired their vacations? According to FACWA, which is a consumer association, people will always have the right to recover their money. If we are caught away from home, the authorities would give us a deadline to return, but if the confinement is sudden and they cannot return, the hotels will speak with the tour operators to negotiate the issue of expenses. The consumer has the right to be reimbursed for their trip, whether it's the airline, train or hotel tickets, and to report if they do not return the money. So there you go, some reassurance for tourists who maybe come to Spain and find themselves confined. There most likely will be a warning that the confinement is going to take place, giving people time to get out. But of course, if you do get stuck in a confined area, you do have rights as a consumer. So make sure you look into those, check the fine print before you decide to come to Spain this summer. But as we have mentioned in other videos, local authorities in coastal areas are doing everything in their powers to keep the situation under control. If it means closing down night spots, that's what they're doing. If it means closing down restaurants, that's what they're going to do. Because of course, citizen security is the #1 objective, and local areas have the idea to nip all of these outbreaks in the bud before they get out of control. Now, a quick piece of news regarding the confinement in Catalonia and Barcelona. The Catalan government has ruled out a compulsory lockdown, and Spain calls to keep the borders open. The health secretary has said that young people should drink at home instead of gathering in town squares at night. And this obviously comes on the back of reports over the last few days that the majority of the cases in Spain at the moment are young people due to family gatherings. And of course, young people getting together and drinking, going to night spots, going to discos, and unfortunately the virus cannot be contained in those environments. Now, the newspaper El País posed an interesting question the other day. Are Spaniards the most willing adopters of face masks in Europe? Health experts are divided over the effectiveness of making the coronavirus safety measure mandatory in all public spaces, even when social distancing measures can be respected. Walk down any street in Spain and you are likely to see most people wearing a face mask, albeit not always correctly. Groups of young people may be the exception to the rule, especially if they are drinking on the street, as well as patrons of outdoor bars and restaurants. Even so, similar scenes are hard to find in France or the UK, even though both countries have been hit equally hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. In France, for instance, wearing a face mask has only become mandatory in closed public spaces since Monday. So there we go, that's the question. Are the Spanish the most willing adopters of the face mask in Europe? If you're in Spain, or if you have been in Spain recently, you will most likely agree that that is the case, as you see face masks everywhere. Here in Portugal, where I am at the moment, it's completely different. People walking around the streets don't use face masks as often as they do. You see a few elderly people with face masks on, and of course if you go into bars and restaurants, people are wearing them, but in general people are not walking around the streets. But maybe the situation is different in Lisbon, I don't know. But in Spain, as we have seen, mandatory face masks in all of the autonomous communities except Madrid and the Canary Islands. But that's about to change apparently, as the Madrid government says that it will force the use of face masks tomorrow if the government does not control what they call the whole of Barajas. Barajas is the airport in Madrid. It's the main airport in Madrid, and I think it's the biggest airport in Spain. And the local Madrid government is blaming the central government for not controlling Barajas airport well enough. Apparently, according to the Madrid government, too many people are coming through without the necessary checks, and of course possibly leading to a health situation in the community of Madrid. So face masks could become mandatory in Madrid in coming days. Now let's go and have a look at some of the comments from the last video. One here from Clyde. Hello Stuart, in your blog on corruption you mentioned the Civil Guard investigated corruption cases. What exactly is the role of the Civil Guard in modern Spain? How has its role changed since Franco? Keep up the good work of providing your insights on Spanish life. Yeah, Clyde, thanks for the comment. Firstly, I'm going to say that the policing system in Spain is a very complex one. Apart from the Civil Guard, you've got local police, you've got national police, you've also got autonomous police in some areas, and it makes it very, very confusing for people coming to the country, especially if you come from a country like Australia where we have state police. But for example, in the state of Western Australia, we only have one police force and they are in control of everything and they all wear the same uniform. Here in Spain, that's one of the things that you will notice, that there are a lot of different police uniforms around the place, and as I said, it can be a little bit confusing. Regarding the Civil Guard, they have a very, very wide range of responsibilities in Spain. For example, they're in control of customs at airports and seaports. You'll also see them providing security detail at ministries and embassies in a city like Madrid. They also work on things like organized crime. They also have units that are involved in cybercrime. They are a very extensive and wide-ranging police force. They also have a military component, and that separates them from the national police. They're also in control of traffic in the majority of the country, except in Catalonia and the Basque Country, I do believe. And the biggest role of the Civil Guard, or the most visible role of the Civil Guard, is the one in citizen security. And you'll see that if you go to a small town, small city or village, and you see those patrol cars cruising around the streets, that is one of the biggest roles of the Civil Guard. I wasn't around when Franco was in the country, so I don't know the role that they had back then, but today they have a very important role in policing and security in Spain. One here from Discovery Adventures, another very informative broadcast, traveling from the UK to Les Comas at the end of September, and use this broadcast to follow the local and national restrictions in Spain, as I will be driving from Santander and don't want to accidentally enter a restricted area en route via one of the minor mountain roads. Regards, Peter. Yeah, Peter, thanks for the comment and thanks for following these vlogs. I try to keep people up to date on the areas that are closing down in Spain, if there is some type of confinement, if there are some type of restrictions going on at the moment. As I mentioned, the main areas at the moment are in Catalonia, Aragon, and there is a place now in Pamplona which has also been put into confinement, but keep watching and I'll keep people up to date of changes in the future, and hopefully you'll be able to avoid a restricted area when you come to Spain. One here from Need More. Thanks, Stuart. It seems everyone, including Spain, is moving towards the controlled burn model for dealing with C-19. Keep the economy, including tourism, running right on the edge of overwhelming the health system. Love my time in Spain last fall and wish everyone there better days. Yeah, Need More, thanks for the comment. It does seem that that's what the country is trying to do at the moment, not trying to overburden the health system and trying to keep all of the outbreaks localized, trying to encourage people to go about their day to day. But of course, it is a difficult balance. And as we have seen over the last couple of days and weeks, that the situation is getting a little bit out of control at the moment. But the central government seems to be sticking to its guns and allowing the local autonomous communities to deal with the problems. And I think that's going to continue for at least the next couple of months. But of course, you never know come September what the situation is going to be. But at least for now, I think that it is going to remain that way. Because as you mentioned there with the economy, it needs to keep running, and we have to try somehow to live with the two factors. Keep the economy going, because another complete lockdown would be disastrous for the country. One here from Angel. English is not a phonetic language like Spanish, and you have to know how to pronounce and write every single word. I have seen English majors making big mistakes, and it's my opinion that we cannot expect everyone to speak or write perfectly. Yeah, Angel, thanks for the comment, obviously relating to one of the comments on the last videos about how bad some of the spelling is. I agree, English is not a phonetic language. It is not easy to spell. Basically, you have to be able to memorize words in order to spell them correctly. There's not a lot of rules. A lot of the rules don't make sense for a lot of people, and that's one of the problems with English. However, looking at some of the comments on the video about this topic, I think one of the main reasons is that people are writing comments on phones, and obviously you make a lot of mistakes with those very, very small keyboards, and I'd like to think that's the reason for so many spelling mistakes on these videos. But as somebody else said, we're not the grammar police, so you can write whatever you want and write it however you want. But it is difficult for me reading some of the comments with a lot of mistakes, and sometimes I have to correct them on the go. So there we go. One here from Bibiana. Hi Stuart, nice videos. It always gives us reference of what we want. Thinking of moving to Spain from Canada, but originally from Colombia. We see it more possible every time we see your videos. We will not be looking for a job since we both work online for Canadian companies. You did mention the public school system has not been doing good with the crisis. Here it's the same. Which part of Spain would you recommend for us? We can move to a small city far from the crowds. However, we have to think of good schools for our 14 and 12-year-old boys. They both speak Spanish, but they don't know how to read or write. Any suggestions? We appreciate it. Yeah, hi Bibiana, thanks for the comment. I saw in another comment that you wrote that you're looking at the Valencia region. I think that's a good region to move to. You've got access to good schools down there. You've probably got lots of bilingual schools as well, where your kids will be able to adapt to schooling in both languages. Of course, they can learn to read and write in Spanish once they come. I did see a couple of other people suggesting places like Salamanca, but I suppose that if you're coming from a place like Canada, you're looking for more of a Mediterranean climate to get out of the cold, and coming from Colombia, I suppose that is definitely the case. So Valencia could be one of the areas, maybe somewhere in Andalusia as well. If anybody has any suggestions for Bibiana, please leave them in the comment section below and let her know some of the best areas in Spain for her situation. And finally, one here from Juicebox: just moved to Portugal, better than Spain. Yeah, thanks for the comment. I don't want to open this can of worms. I did a video last year comparing both countries, or giving my opinion on some of the differences between the two. In my opinion, you can find a great quality of life in both countries. Portugal has its pros, but it also has its cons. Spain has some pros, but it also has some cons as well. The only thing that I would say, in my opinion, is that Portugal is a lot less complex from a political point of view. Of course, it's a lot smaller. There's only one central government. You don't have this autonomous community system here in Portugal. The majority of people only speak one language. And one of the things about Spain, in my opinion, is that people are constantly arguing amongst themselves. Everybody seems to want something. Catalonia wants something. The Basque Country wants something. Everybody seems to want something. But here in Portugal, I don't get that same sensation. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions or comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the situation out as you normally do. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. See you in the next one. Hasta luego.